Everybody, welcome to the Purple Friday Show, episode 206. We are back after a Ravens win against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Ravens did not put up 30 points, but for the most part, I think at least the first half, right? It felt like it were going back and forth between the Ravens and the Jags because they weren't doing anything. The Jags missed 2 field goals. Then Lamar fumbles. Was it Lamar fumble? No. Who fumbled?
Lawrence.
Lawrence fumbled. We turned the ball over,
Lawrence had
though,
a
I
couple.
thought.
We had an interception.
A bad
Interception. Then that interception Lamar threw over the middle of the field, right, across his body. So he threw that, and then the very next drive, the Jaguars are driving down, and then Trevor Lawrence sees Arthur Millette or something, and I don't know what he was trying to do. If he was trying to do some and one stuff and just throw it up and spin past him or catch the other side, so I don't know what he was trying to do, but he just fumbles the football. Arthur Millette, if he was any faster, that would have been a touchdown. I was surprised. I was actually surprised when I was like, what? I thought he was gone for 6 for sure. I thought that was a touchdown. Yeah. I was like, man. I was like, okay, now I get why he gets beat on those plays in coverage. I'm like, now I see why.
Don't got wheels.
They're hesitant about putting him out there when Marlon and them were hurt. I was like, now I see why. Okay.
Remember, we saw Marlon take a similar fumble back that one year. It was almost like
they went against the Patriots. It wasn't like Edelman or somebody. He got knocked out, and Marlon just ran it back. So I thought it was a touchdown, but I was like, whatever, I'll take it. It is what it is. Madubuike gets his season high, like tying. He tied the record for 12. I think 12 sacks in a season. So he gets one more and he breaks it. He'll have the record for most consecutive sacks in one season. So yeah, shouts out. I think we said in the group chat, every time that man gets a sack, that money bag is getting a lot bigger.
Cha-ching.
I mean, considering the top sack leaders, I think it's T.J. Watt and I think it's Donnell Hunter too. Donnell Hunter's got like 14 or 15 sacks. I think T.J.'s got 15 and a half, and he's right. I mean, he's an interior lineman, and he's got 12. He's only 3 sacks behind them. Yeah. So that just goes to show like his impact on this team. And I think we said it last week. We were hoping for a pass rush in this game from Clowney and Owe. Didn't see it much. It wasn't until I think the game didn't really turn until I think Madubuike got that forced that intentional grounding against Trevor Lawrence in their own red zone. That's what I think turned the football game, because then after that, Madubuike was getting all the pressure. It's like he was trying the whole game, trying to figure out a way to get some kind of pressure, because in the first half and at least the first 3 quarters, they weren't getting Trevor Lawrence was just sitting back there. Like he wasn't getting pressure at all, really. Yeah. So yeah, the defense played really good there. Brandon Stevens, but outside of one play, played great defense again. I think once Zay Jones went out with the injury, I think that was pretty much for their offense. It kind of went away after that. They did. The Jags did use your boy Travis, that tight end, on like one play. I can't remember his name.
Ingram?
No,
not Ingram. It's the
other one. Luke Farrell.
They used him on one. It was a good play too. But he didn't see him anymore. Yeah, and it was like, okay, they didn't use him. But you said that last week. They don't use him. So,
nope.
And I mean, of course, the play that I think won the game. One ended up winning the game for the Ravens was Lamar's just Houdini play. Getting out of the sack and throwing it up to Likely, and it felt a lot like I said. I think it was that similar game last season where Myles Garrett was trying to sack Lamar Jackson, and he throws it up to Mark Andrews. Similar type play, and Myles Garrett is sitting there like, "Ow." No, and then Allen's sitting there like he's like, I don't get it. So I mean, it's just kind of.
Yeah.
Did I lose you guys?
No,
still here.
Okay. Yeah.
Hear you.
Yeah, so it was Lamar just doing Lamar things, and I think you reminded people on Sunday Night Football like Lamar Jackson. It's just let's say that they one of one, like he's just a different element. Like that reminded me, I think, of that Nike commercial they did with Michael Vick and Terrell Owens, that CGI one that they did It was a similar type thing. The defensive guy tries to sack Michael Vick, and he does the same spin move out of it, and throws it like it was a Madden play. Like it's not something you see quarterbacks do.
Yeah.
So I mean that was right there. I think that won the football game for the Ravens. And then of course Keaton Mitchell, who was on a great run when he hurt his leg, but the way the defender tripped his leg up and he landed on that knee awkwardly. You saw the thing bend back. And I saw that live. I threw my remote on the floor. I was just like, I knew right then and I was like, yeah, his knees. I was like, his knee's done. I was like, there's not. He went, he grabbed his knee immediately and rolled over. I was like, yeah, that's it. That's it. Like Ravens can't have anything ice. And it wasn't until the end of the game when I realized, like, we got to see Melvin Gordon again. He's gonna be back. And of course, they activated him yesterday. So I was just like, okay. But all in all, look, the Ravens are. I think I looked at the record. The Ravens are 6-1 on the road this year. They were the best away records. I think it's one of those things that no one talks about. And look, even like a lot of people in the local media and everybody else don't really talk about it. But the Ravens have one of the best away records in football, considering the teams they've played. And they're going away again against the 49ers come this week. So they haven't been winning pretty at all. I don't think they've been playing any of their best football the last three weeks. But I think, like you said, Travis, earlier in the season, they were losing games like this against the Colts, against the Steelers, and then before the bye week against the Browns. But somehow, some way, in this next half of the season, they've been winning these games now. They played in 2 winning games back to back. Against the Jags, and then last week again. So they have 2 windy games they played. But I will say they did a better job of running the football. It wasn't until Keaton Mitchell got hurt they started running the football better, which I didn't understand. Because we had been saying that Keaton Mitchell needs to get about 20, 25 yards a carry, but then Gus started running well. Justice Hill ran really well. I will give Justice Hill a lot of credit. His role when Keaton Mitchell got in had diminished a lot.
Yeah.
But he did, for the last couple weeks, he's done a phenomenal job with blocking downfield, all that stuff. So I'll give him credit where credit. So now, look, his time is back again. I'm going to rely on him a lot more in that, being the outside rusher again. And hopefully I work at that mesh point stuff so they don't fumble the football. Hopefully Melvin Gordon's working on his handles as well. But yeah, what did you guys take from the game? What did you guys think?
Yeah, I think it was never really a point in this game where I didn't feel like the Ravens were in control. I think I did get a little bit nervous at the start of the game because obviously Lamar lost communication in his helmet on the very first play of the game, and we weren't really aware of that, at home watching the game on TV at the moment. But the next couple of plays, you noticed that he was getting to the line of scrimmage with like 3 or 4 seconds left, and they were just kind of snapping the ball 1 second, almost like the whole drive almost. But I mean, they kind of prevailed through all of that adversity, and Lamar he said it today, he confirmed pretty much what we already knew. He pretty much was calling his own plays on the field. So I mean, it was just promising to know that he was able to take the offense by the horn and just pretty much call his own number in certain plays. That's why we've seen a lot of pass plays, I'm sure. Like he was just pretty much wheeling and dealing, and it worked out. I mean, we didn't get a touchdown in that drive. We ended up settling for 3, but it was still impressive to see that you had no input from your offensive coordinator. You were still able to lead your team down the field on a division leader team like the Jags. So I mean, I was still impressed. So I felt pretty good after that. But then, when the Jaguars came out, it did kind of seem like, okay, they feel like playing a little offense today because it was kind of turned into a back and forth game, and that's not really what we wanted. But after that touchdown they scored, I mean, they weren't really or after their first, score and we were able to get them off the field and things like that, it didn't really, like I said, not one point did it seem like they were in control. There was really nobody on the field that scared me once the game got started. I mean, obviously, going into the game, we wanted to figure out how to neutralize ETN, but they had no success on the ground whatsoever. And I'm not shocked because ETN hasn't really had much success on the ground in the last, few weeks or so. I mean, he's more of a threat catching the ball out the backfield and in the open space. And that's pretty much what I was more worried about. But we kept him in check for the most part. they were in a red zone a lot on us in that game, and we just happened to keep them from scoring points. Sometimes they were shooting themselves in the foot, and sometimes we got them off the field. So, that is still a lot of stuff that we have to clean up on defense, especially entering this next game coming up this week, which we'll talk about later. But it's still a lot of stuff that they need to clean up. I think defensively they played a solid game. They did give up 7, but it could have been a lot worse. The earlier on in the game in the first half, we were getting literally zero pressure, and it's starting to be kind of a trend the last couple of weeks. We're not really getting great pressure early in games, and that's a little bit concerning because it seems like the only time they're getting pressure is when the offensive line is kind of already worn down already in the second half and later in these games. And to play against some of these elite teams, we're going to need to be getting pressure a little bit more consistently. I'm not saying go out there and get 5-6 sacks a game, but the Matty BK sack, that it was, although great individually for him, that just wasn't enough team wise. We need to see, more production from our edge. I mean, it's another game now where we really haven't gotten much pressure. Like I said, more especially earlier on, it started to get home a little bit in the second half, but still not good enough to what our standards should be going into our game next week. Offensively, just Lamar being Lamar, man. I mean, we could have been a lot more consistent. We didn't punch it in at times where we needed to punch it in, but Lamar definitely had his MVP moment in this game. Whether you think he should be the MVP favorite or not, I mean, he's going to pretty much separate himself, in my opinion. And it started with that Jacksonville game. I mean, he's been doing things already throughout the season that Lamar just does all the time. It's just that everyone's just desensitized by him making these types of plays every week in and week out, and it's just kind of like, oh, now he has to do something super extraordinary for the national media to notice and everything. But he had a few of those moments in that game, not just the pass to Likely, which was amazing and a hell of a grab by Likely, because without him making that grab, I mean, we're not even talking about it. And on the ground, like he ran for 97 yards in that game. So I mean, the stats aren't eye popping because for some reason people just don't respect the rushing numbers on QBs sometimes. All of a sudden they don't respect it as much when Lamar Jackson does it, because when any other quarterback has been doing it, it's been praised. I mean, Vic has been praised. I mean, people were going into Michael Vick games and they were just waiting to see him run for 100 yards. And when Lamar's doing that, plus he's efficiently passing the football, it's not looked at the same way. But this is what he's been doing all year. I think it was like I said, a great statement game. However, because that is still a division leader, no matter, I understand Jags lost 3 in a row, this, that, and the third, but it's still a division leader of that conference, which means it's still saying a lot to go in there and dominate them, just like we did with other teams like, Detroit and Seattle. Like, we've done similar things to those teams as well. NFC, AFC, it doesn't matter. But I think it was a good game. Bateman had a few nice plays when he just kind of was making plays for Lamar. I did like that. Zay only had 1 catch in this game, I think. I don't know really what to contribute that to. I don't think it was a lack of him getting open. I did watch a little bit of film and seeing that he did have separation. It's just that we were under so much duress in the pocket. A lot of the times Lamar was just getting pushed to the other side of the field. And I noticed that when I was watching it, when I was watching the game. And that's just brings me to the number one concern is that offensive line. I mean, I literally don't know what we're going to do going forward with this O-line. It's just the interior of the O-line I'm not as concerned with, but the fact that Ronnie Stanley is probably, who knows if he even plays this week. I'm not sure what the injury report looked like today with him, and looking like intentionally giving himself a concussion in this game. I don't know what it looks like going forward, but that's my number one concern, I'll say. So I'll just say that good win, because it's a game that we needed to have, and it sets us up nicely going up against the NFC's best team and the 49ers next week. However, we have to clean up the pass rush. More importantly, we have to clean up the offensive line and protecting Lamar's blind side and the 2 outsides. And yeah, just being a little bit more efficient. But that offensive line, we're gonna have to figure something out. And yeah, praise to Keaton Mitchell. Obviously, we were all hoping that he just like hyperextended his knee, but he's so fast. So it's like, when you're running that fast and your leg gets caught like that, it's just kind of bound to happen. So hopefully, wishing him a speedy recovery for next season, everything like that. But yeah, good overall win, but we still got still some concerns there.
I kind of first I want to address the Arthur Millette slander. The boy is just slow. He ran a 4.7 at the combine, so I just want to address that. There's a reason he stays in the slot.
Yeah.
But this game, it was a game that I had the mindset like this could be the hardball game of the year. We're favorites. Jacksonville's a solid team. I mean, this is a really good offense. So I didn't take them lightly coming into this game because Etienne, even though he doesn't have like eye-popping yards per carry, he's a threat and he's shown to be able to put up numbers. Calvin Ridley's a good receiving threat. Evan Ingram has always been pretty solid at the tight end position. And even without Christian Kirk, they can move the ball. So I had my mind set up that this could be a letdown. Early on, I was starting to feel like this could trend that direction. The beginning of the game, like we all said, like that, the issues with the headsets wasn't great, but Lamar was doing his thing. After that, I was just so baffled by our philosophy. And it was like, once again, we're like, hey, what the hell is our identity? What are we really trying to do? It's like we're always trying to adjust to the defense instead of identifying what we want to do to, whether it's ground and pound or attack through the air or a very balanced attack. We don't identify what we want to do. We want to truly let the defense dictate what we do offensively. And I don't think that's a great thing because it never seems like we have any consistency. We don't have a feel for the game. So, I was really disappointed as the rest of the first half continued. It felt like Lamar truly at times in this game just had to make it happen. It wasn't like there was a strategy or until the fourth quarter where we started to really just run the ball with Gus Edwards. But before then, it was really like Lamar just making plays in spite of the game plan, in spite of the offensive line struggling. So that is not a formula to win a Super Bowl. But when you have a talent like Lamar Jackson and you have a defense like we have, you always have a chance to control a game. So what I was impressed with was Lamar's poise. I've been noticing it all year, and I'm pretty sure everybody's noticed it. Like Lamar is truly just running around the pocket, outside the pocket to look for the right throw and to look for the right play, as opposed to just trying to take it downfield or go for the big play. He's actually looking for the right play. So I want to give kudos to that. Also, he's still able to make the plays safely that he made in the past. Like he's not going for the 60-yard touchdown. He's going for 20 and let me slide. And I think plays like that and his growth and maturity is what's allowed this offense to be good. It hasn't been great most of the time, but it's been good. And I think it's solely because of him. Isaiah Likely, the origin story continues. I mean, this guy is a star in the making. I've seen the Ravens message boards. They've been talking about Mark Andrews has a history of drops. They've been talking about Mark Andrews has been injured a couple years in a row. Should likely be the number one tight end. The answer is no, but he's a very valuable asset. He's a very valuable asset and a great backup. So Isaiah Likely playing phenomenal. That catch he had, Lamar made a crazy play and a crazy throw. But if we're honest with ourselves, that play doesn't happen if Likely doesn't box out, go up there and snatch that thing. If that's
he came back to the ball too.
If that's Rashad Bateman, it's an interception.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
if
yeah, absolutely.
Flowers,
yeah.
I don't know if he's bringing it down.
If he's
But
that tall, he's not. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, Isaiah likely made that play. So he's really been stepping up. Like offensive line, I mean, Linderbaum has been solid. Zeitler's been solid. I like I like at times the rotation we're doing with the tackles. I hate that we have to do it, but I like that we do it sometimes. But Ronald Stanley, I'm not even gonna call you Ronnie, Ronald Stanley, because you're playing old, man. He's just a liability, man. Concussion or not, ankle injury or not, he's just been a liability for us. And it makes me nervous going further into this season. But let's jump over to defense. Let me talk some good stuff. Man, our secondary played really solid. They gave up some plays. There were some miscommunications, but overall, really solid. Kyle Hamilton is the best safety in the NFL right now. I don't think there's anybody playing as smart. That I don't know a safety that's playing man coverage like him. You know what I mean? Who's as dominant in the run game like him? There's nobody playing at the level Kyle Hamilton is from the safety position this year. I want somebody to show me a person. Um, Linebacking core solid. Patrick Queen, Roquan Smith. I'm a little concerned sometimes with our coverage, but overall pretty solid. The front four, you all said it. Like we haven't been able to get much pressure solely from the front four over the past couple weeks. The second half, we started to see, it become more positive, but we need the front four this coming week to dominate. We need it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Once again, we need an APB out on Jadeveon Clowney, man. This guy disappears. Where's Owe? He's a O. He's zero right now. He's not really making a lot of plays for us. So we need that front four to really step up. I mean, Michael Pierce has been solid in the run game these past few weeks. I mean, I know he's taken up like 2 gaps just by himself, by standing there. So, he's been really solid. But I think for us to really hone in and be dominant going forward in the playoffs, we need that front four to step up. Marlon, great bounce back game. You're still not an all-pro, but great bounce back game. I was lucky to see that.
All city.
And I love that Lamar called him out and said
he did, yeah,
and he did. So hey, great.
So you need to play better, yeah.
But yeah, overall, solid game. We were in control most of the game. Early, I was doubtful, but we took control of that game, and I had no doubts come the second half. So great victory for us.
Yeah, they were talking about that. I think the Ravens did like some vignette or whatever about, it's gone very understated, but Lamar's leadership this year since getting his contract has gone to another level. Like he's actually he's not saying it like on the sidelines and stuff like that, but he said there was a time in that Jags game where he was pulling the guys together, like he got them in the circle and starts. They didn't show it on TV or anything, but Marlon and the guys like, yeah, and then like you said. He's like, yeah, last week, Lamar was like, we need you to play better. He didn't say you're playing bad. He's like, we need you. I know you can play better than this. Like, I know, you've been dealing with some injuries this year, but it's getting to a point in the season where we need you at your best. We're going to need you at your best, man. Like, so Lamar, and Lamar knows that because he's a former MVP and the best player in this team, that, he has to do the same thing each week. I know he felt bad about throwing that pick over the middle. I know he did. But I think the thing is, what I like about it is, sometimes they say when a pitcher gets, throwing his best pitch or whatever, and then the guy comes up and just cranks the thing 450 feet, and then they get all they don't want to throw the pitch anymore. They get all, in their feels, and they feel like they can't throw the pitch anymore. But, that's, I think, the mettle of a good football player, especially a quarterback. They say the one thing you got to do is you're going to throw picks. It's going to happen, right? You're going to throw picks. The key is, what do you do after that? Are you going to keep throwing picks, or are you going to come back and throw touchdowns and make big plays? And that's what Lamar did, I think, for the rest of the game. Now, I will push back on you, Travis, about Kyle Hamilton. According to Shannon Sharp, Kyle Hamilton didn't play. So I'm just going to go with Shannon said. According to Shannon, Kyle didn't play. So I don't know what you're talking about there. But we said that in the group chat. It was like, like he's talking. When he said, I think he pulled the clip, and it was like, come on, man. You clearly just box score watching. That's what you've been doing with the Ravens all season. You've been box score watching. That's it.
I love that he confirmed. I love that he confirmed that he don't be watching the games at all.
No, he just no. He
Thanks for verifying that. We already knew, but I'm glad you showed it to everybody.
Because when he would say the stuff about Lamar, especially after that Steelers game, and Lamar's got to play better. Like, did you not watch the game? Clearly, you didn't. You clearly didn't, because if you watched the game, you'd have said, "Yeah, it's not Lamar's fault."
Yeah.
I mean, it was 5 or 6 drop passes and 3 drop touchdowns. Like, come on.
But they shoot Mahomes all the bail in the world every week.
Man,
right?
Box score bandit, man. Box score bandit.
Now, say Zay Flowers and Odell were not practicing today. Apparently, Zay's been spotted in a walking boot. They say it's precautionary at the moment. They see it has like a foot sprain. They don't feel overly concerned about it, but they say it's more of a precautionary thing so that he can play. So the question will be if he practices tomorrow. If he's still in that walking boot Thursday and Friday, I'm like, I don't like it. But usually Beckham usually doesn't. From what I've seen all year, Beckham is usually not practicing on Mondays. He just doesn't at this point. Morgan Moses was not at practice with a shoulder injury, which I think he got that hurt in the game. I think it was that Jags game. I think
Morgan. I think he'd been hurt. I think he was hurt.
Yeah, maybe 2 games ago or something like that. We went down
a couple games ago.
Marcus and Ronnie Stanley were all practicing today. I was happy about Marcus. I thought Marcus with the groin injury. You know how groins are. Like, I don't know. Like, you could be out for a while. But apparently he was at practice today, so he practiced today. And shouts to him for making that phenomenal tackle at the end of the first half, and keeping the guy in bounds.
Yeah,
I mean, and then I give Doug Peterson usually a lot of credit for being a really good head coach. Right, that was terrible clock management at the end of that first half. And Travis, you said it in the group chat. That was game right there.
Yeah,
them not scoring that and making it a 3-point game and going in a half, I think at 10-0, was like, yeah, like that's game right there. Like, you've been in the red zone. They were in on the Ravens 40 at least 3 or 4 times in that first half, and they didn't score anything.
Inside, even closer.
Yeah. They were right, and at the goal line too. At the goal line, they were right there at the goal line, and they just couldn't do it. So, I didn't see them, but the 49ers. Yeah, and like you said, Stanley. Yeah, I don't know what. Like, it looked like when he was sitting on the bench, he wasn't around anybody, right? He was sitting there, and then you just saw him a few minutes later walking off with the trainers. I was just like, he was. I personally think at this point, I would just put McCarry in at left tackle. Like, to be quite frank, I just put McCarry in at left tackle. Like, there's no way I'm putting. If I got to keep taking Ronnie Stanley in and out of the game each week, I can't. I can't keep doing it. I just can't. Now, I mean, Ronnie Stanley is, coming off. I think he had that huge knee. You saw that knee brace he had on. It covered up most of his leg.
You can't anchor anymore.
Yeah, that's where everybody said he can't.
He's cooked.
There was one play he gave up a sack, and I think Josh Allen just ran right past him. He's like, he can't move. He can't push anybody back. He can't. He just. So I'm like, look, at this point, I just put Pat McCarry back there, like, for real. I would just pat Patrick McCarry and let Ronnie Stanley sit. We don't have a choice. Like, I'm like, you can't keep Ronnie out there. You can't. You just can't right now. Now, I said if Zay is healthy, I was, with Keaton Mitchell out, we said Zay only got, I think, 1 catch in that game. I think we said this earlier in the year that, we would like to see Zay more involved, like kind of how the 49ers use Debo, in these end arounds and some of these like drag route plays and stuff like that. Maybe lining him up in the backfield sometimes. He can get swing. Just get him in open field. Yeah. Just get him in open field. We've been saying that about Odell, about these receivers, and Keaton Mitchell, before he got hurt, that these guys are excellent at open field. And the problem is that some of the routes that they're running, they're not giving him a lot of space, especially Zay. Like, Zay's not getting a lot of space where he's allowed to make the guy miss. He's allowed to, get a step on a guy or something like that. So I'm like, if, with Keaton Mitchell out, I would like to see Zay a little bit more, like, utilized that way. If he line him up on the outside, but also lining him up in the backfield, gives a different look, especially like this part in the season, right? Where the 49ers and the Dolphins and everybody else has looked at film for the last 14, 15 weeks, what the Ravens do at this point. This would be a perfect time to throw in some wrinkles. Be a perfect time to throw in some wrinkles that you haven't seen before to get ready for the playoffs, right? I did like Kolar got involved. I think he got a first down, he got a catch. I think he got one catch in that game. But I think that we saw that formula in 2012 when it was Super Bowl, right? It was Ed Dixon and Dennis Pitta. Yeah. Like there's a way to use both tight ends at the same time. You don't have to just throw it to one all game. Yeah. You can utilize both at the same time.
The only problem is that we need them to block.
Yeah, that too. Right to that too. Yeah, they're not good blockers. That's the only issue. And then if Mark Andrews does come, I don't know what Mark Andrews' status is at this point. I don't know. It's been hoped that he might come back by the time, like maybe the conference championship game if the Ravens get that far. We'll see. I don't know. But you can use both. He did it at Georgia. He did it with Darnell Washington and is it Brock Purdy? I can't remember.
Brock Bowers.
Yeah, Bowers. They used both of them at Georgia, so I'm like, you can do it here too. So I'd like to see that. And like you said, Travis, the Ravens still have another Harbaugh game. Another one. Lamar is 2-0 against Harbaugh. I want to say 3-0. 3-0 against Harbaugh at this point because the Chargers game was a Harbaugh game. Yeah, it's the Ravens. You tend to play down to their competition. I think we thought this passing game was being a lot more electric considering how bad the Jags pass defense is. But I think again a lot of that was the fact that the offensive line is bad. But my issue is they've known this line has been bad for the last 5 weeks. They've known it's been bad. It's not getting. You're not like anybody's on the line that you don't know that's going to make things better. That's in the practice squad or on free agency at this point. So my thing is, with Munkin is like knowing that you got to develop a better scheme right now around. Look, this line cannot block for 5 seconds. It just can't. And too many times in the last few games, we've seen that Lamar is having to run around and get out of sacks or whatever to make things happen and stay in the pocket for 8 seconds to throw downfield. You got to get to this situation. You got to get a lot more of these quick pass games going to protect Lamar first off and to keep these offensive linemen like off their backs for real. Like, because going against the 49ers this coming week, Munkin's going to scheme off his ass. This will be the perfect time to put in some stuff that you haven't seen before on TV. This will be the perfect time to do this. So look, the Ravens 6-1 on the road. They go into San Francisco this week. And I think if Lamar has another tight game like he just had this past week against the Jags, if Lamar can do his thing, I'll say that if Lamar is capable of doing his thing, I think the Ravens can win. If Lamar is capable of doing his thing, the key I think for the Ravens, and this is before we get to the preview, obviously, but the thing for the key for the Ravens is going to be they have to get up early on the 49ers. When they have opportunities that they get, I want to see Harbaugh like he did in what game was that? The Detroit game? I think it was Detroit when they took the ball first. They need to do that against San Francisco. Get that offense on the field, get them points early. So, move on to Week 15 news. So we saw the Steelers lost to the Indianapolis Colts. Their safety, DeMar Casey, got suspended for the rest of the year for a bad hit on Michael Pittman. Look, I think it's apparent now that the Steelers, like even Ben Roethlisberger commented this week. I think this is before the Colts even lost the game. The tradition of the Steelers is over. Whatever that means, that's what he said on his podcast. The tradition of the Steelers is over. Since Ben Roethlisberger's been out, the Steelers haven't been getting better. And it's kind of that effect that you see. They talk about Bill Belichick, that Bill Belichick thing. Like Tom Brady hasn't been there, and the Patriots have been stinking ever since. And now you look at Mike Tomlin, does it feel like that mojo he had where they could win, 9 games or win 10 games and, maybe not make the playoffs, but at least have a winning season. Feels like that mojo might be gone. And then I'm seeing a lot of the message boards and Steeler fans, that Western PA side starting to come out now. The Western PA people are starting to come out now all of a sudden about Mike Tomlin. I never liked Mike Tomlin. We should have kept Bill. Like it's starting to come out now about Mike Tomlin. I don't like it either. I don't like it either. Like
he's overcome too much with way less. Even after Big Ben left, like he had a whole winning season after Big Ben exited the premises. Like that's I don't know what that is. Maybe it's just an excuse for people to finally bash him, the people who never liked him in the first place. But like this is not the Bill Belichick situation. This is not that. We've
Yeah.
seen Tomlin year in and year out. Even when Big Ben was there, Big Ben has missed critical games in their season, and they've showed up regardless, whether it was Jacoby Brissett or Charlie Batch or Mason Rudolph or I mean he's overcome all of that already. And most teams you can't say that for. You can't say that for Bill Belichick with a starting QB. So like let's kill the comparisons. It's not that Mike Tomlin's a great coach. He's proved it already. He's been there just as long as John Harbaugh has been there, damn near, and he has a lot to show for it. He's never had a losing season. And like I said, even when Ben was there, it was a lot of them games he missed, and he still had winning seasons and gone to the playoffs and things like that. So yeah, missed me with that. And I'm not even a Steelers fan, but I am a Mike Tomlin fan, and just as a man in general, and as a head football coach. And whoever I just don't buy it. And he's only the third coach in their history. Like, stop it. They're not moving on from Mike Tomlin. They'd be foolish to do that. Mike Tomlin will literally have a job as soon as he walks out of that door. He'll be walking into another one. They'd be fools to let him go. It'd be the worst thing they could ever do for their franchise. And actually, I hope they do it because if that's how they really feel, somebody else will be much more deserving of that anyway. So yeah, miss me.
And I think if you look at this team, like they are the Carolina Panthers without Mike Tomlin. Like they are not winning more than 2 games because bad quarterback play, have an average running back, pretty for the most part, pretty average line play, but you have some good pass rushers. Pass defense is pretty poor. What do you really have with this team? They're the Carolina Panthers. But Mike Tomlin seems to get the best out of players. He's a great strategist, great motivator. So that's what allows them to be so competitive. That makes the difference in why people say coaching matters. So you get rid of him, you're in the doghouse. You're the mid 2010s Detroit Lions. You're going 0-16. 0-17, 1-16. Like, you're a mediocre franchise at that point. Mike Tomlin is the only thing that is allowing them to hold on to the Steelers culture.
Yeah. And he just fired their OC. Like, they're playing with no OC. Yeah. Like, come on, man. Like, give the man a chance. Like, does he hire the best staff? I don't know. Debatable. But if we just talking about straight up head coach, like, stop it.
Yeah.
And look, they made a bad pick with Kenny Pickett. That's another part of this, right? Like they put all their, they drafted Kenny Pickett to be the heir apparent, and he's clearly not it. And then they move on. They put Mitch Trubisky in, and they bench him for Mason Rudolph. Like they're going through it right now in Pittsburgh. Do I feel sorry for them? No, because they were saying all this crap on Lamar got hurt and blah blah blah. Like we've been beating y'all for the last 6 years. Fine, y'all gonna suck for them. Y'all gonna go through the Kyle Bowler years like we did. Enjoy it. We had to suffer through it, so now you guys got to too. Raiders beat the Chargers 63-0, 63-21. It should have been 63-0. Yeah. Every time I looked at my phone, every 5 minutes, there was a touchdown.
I was putting updates. I was putting updates every score change in the chat.
I was like, what do you mean?
I was like, what
touchdown
the hell?
And another touchdown. I was like, what is going on? And I'm like, there were like 5 fumbles in the game. 2 of them returned for like touchdowns. That team quit on Brandon Staley. That was the game. I thought it was going to be our game, but that was the game where the team was like, we've had enough. We want this man fired. And he came out there, I think, after the game and said, after the defense clearly was, everybody just played bad. And said that, the reporter asked him, do you believe that you should still, be the head coach or whatever? He's like, I have no reason not to believe I should be. And it was like, again, placing the blame on everybody else but himself. Yeah. Now he finds himself out of a job. But 3 years too late, they got rid of Brandon Staley. But now Herbert's hurt. Mike Williams is injury prone at this point. He got a bad back. You got Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, but You didn't really get much out of them this year. I mean, long term this year. They had a few games, but Joey Bosa hasn't really been that guy for the last few years, 3 years, honestly. Derwin James, he was, highly scouted and, respected coming out of FSU and stuff. But, I think since his major injury hasn't really been that guy either. Austin Eckler is washed. He's at this point, he's done. Keenan Allen is the only really good thing they got left, and I think he's over 30 years old now. So I'm like, they're gonna have to just rebuild in for LA. They gotta start off with a new head coach. Maybe Kellen Moore takes over as head coach. Who knows? I don't know. But that at the end of the season, like that, I don't know why it took this long for the owner to go ahead and fire that man. Why did it take this? They were still had a decent record enough where they could be in contention. You could have sparked something in this team to have them win, but now they know they're out of it. So it's like, what's the point?
They're trash.
The Browns going to beat the Bears. Joe Flacco, while throwing 3 interceptions in this game, still helps to win.
They are this man crazy right now too.
No, I can't. But like people are talking about Flacco like he's about to go on his 2012 run, and a lot of Ravens fans are like, "Look, he if this was against a better team, the Browns would have got stomped.
Yeah.
3 picks, like no. If it was against a better team,
the pick 6.
Yeah, this was a better team. This game wouldn't have been close. And then of course in Chicago Bear fashion, was it Daryl Mooney's like right there to get the ball's falling into his hand, and he bobbles it somehow, and then kicks it into the Browns player so he can. I was like,
it's a tough catch, man. They got tough. Those super slow motions, and
it was fast.
That football kind of it's a hard reaction.
Spinning too, so it was like
it was tough. I felt bad for him, but it is what it is.
Yeah, so the Browns are still in it. The Bengals are still in it. Jay Brown and Joe Flacco are keeping these dudes alive, man.
It's the Flacco experience.
It's
like I said, kind of rejuvenate the whole division.
Oh man, right? Yeah, it's like I would love to root for Flacco, but he plays for the Browns. I can't do it. Just can't. Just can't do it. What was the other game I wanted to talk about? I think that's the Bills beating the Cowboys. So the Cowboys obviously come off their win against the great win against the Philadelphia Eagles and go to Orchard Park in Buffalo and just get
destroyed.
This were like 1950s football. James Cook had his best game ever. He had like 200 all-purpose yards, like 180 something rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs had like 2 catches, I think, all game. I think Allen only threw the ball 16 times the whole game. They said he only threw the ball
97 yards.
He had to do nothing.
Nothing. They ran the ball.
He threw like a wheel route to James Cook, like a couple passes to Diggs, and that was his day.
That was it. That was it.
Fraudulent.
Now I will say, minus the Cowboys, I knew this was going to happen. I said after the Eagles game, like that was their Super Bowl. They've been all hyped for that game since the Eagles. This is what the Dolphins are like this, and the Cowboys are like this. When you get them out of their home stadiums, ass. They're not good. They're just not. They can't. I will say I am tired of the talking heads bringing up the Bills. Yes, the Bills are playing better football right now. They're 8-7. Congratulations. But they're still in the hunt. They're not even in the playoffs right now. They don't have a seed. But everybody's talking like I saw they did rankings on Colin Cowherd and I think Speak of their top teams in the AFC, and they got the Bills in the 3rd or the 4th position, depending on what show you're watching.
Nah, that
was teams that are in the playoffs.
Was that Honcho show? Speak with Joy Taylor, and he had the nerve to ask the question: "Are the Bills the best team in the AFC?" They're not in the playoffs if the season ended today. How disrespectful was that?
Yeah.
Why can't
I like Joy's response? She was like, "Are we not going to talk about the Ravens? Like, we just going to act like the Ravens don't exist?"
Some respect on, like, come on, man. Like, we're not going to put no respect on the Ravens at all. Like, you can big up one team without downing the number 1 seed. I mean, granted, we're used to this treatment and we kind of like it that way. We prefer it,
right?
But like, come on, man.
And right, they're acting like they made it seem like, oh, Josh Allen just had this great game. He threw 16 passes for under 100 yards. Lamar Jackson went out there and played his ass off in an away game. Like,
I think you froze it, dog.
Yeah, man.
And
Freezing up a little bit.
I think that what I hate is that they had to go into
Miles might have to close out of that X-rated window he got on the other screen. Oh man.
I think we lost you, bro.
Yeah. But no, that was disrespectful. The Bills literally got 3 teams ahead of them. They got 4 teams ahead of them, but they got 3 teams ahead of them without even a starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. You got Minshew, Jake Browning, and Joe Flacco ahead of you, and they asking if they're the best team in the AFC. If they were the best team in the AFC, they wouldn't have as many losses as they have. It just doesn't make any sense. They objectively the best team in the AFC. It's just facts.
I would just say they're the hottest, and that's it. Yeah, we can hear you now.
They're on the run. Absolutely. I even still think I was still a team I don't want to see.
Say, like the fact that they went into a production,
but still.
Hey,
Miles working on that satellite delay.
Yeah. Now I was gonna say like what was it? For Speak, they had to put that in production meeting for that segment.
Yeah.
To go into this. They went into a production meeting to talk about that segment. And like, yeah, that sounds fun. That sounds good. Let's talk about the Bills being number 1 team in the AFC. Made no sense to me.
Yeah.
Made no sense. But so shout out to Joy Terry for at least giving the Ravens some respect. Like, let's not act like they were like, yeah, like the best team in the AFC. That's not even in the playoffs. And even if they went out, they still may not make it. But depending on what the Dolphins do or whatever like that. Like they still may not make it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to talk about a team being the best in the conference and they're not even in the playoffs right now. Like let's I could get it if you were talking about the Bills and a number 5 seed or a 7 seed. Ravens a number 1 seed. Got 11 wins. Come on now.
Yeah.
Come on.
Going on 12.
I did want to talk about this stuff before we move on to the MVP, I guess, talk or whatever. I think Ryan Clark brought it up. I think end of last week or I think it was end of last week. It was about the Cam Newton when Cam Newton was calling Dak Prescott a game manager. And Kimberly Martin she does what Get Up and our First Take with Stephen A. And when she made the comment saying like, oh, he was talking like a guy that's in his basement, and stuff. And it was just kind of, you saw Dominique Foxworth on Get Up, and he was just he was doing like, he was like looking like you could tell he wanted to say something, but he was like, nah, I can't say nothing. I'm not going to say nothing because I'm on ESPN, so I can't say nothing. But then Ryan Clark comes on his show, The Pivot, and basically, makes the same statement that he did without calling her name out and just said, I'm going to say that somebody said he sounded like he come from the basement, from mom's basement. Like, let's not let's acting like, and then she made that she looked right dead in the camera, right? And said like, oh, Cam, we're talking about backup quarterbacks. Where are you? Sitting at home. Like, I think Ryan Clark did it very professionally and respectfully. Basically told her, you need to remember who you were talking about. Like Cam Newton was one of those guys. Like Cam Newton
MVP.
at Auburn threw like 48 touchdowns his Heisman Trophy year. 48 touchdowns in the SEC. Okay. Was an NFL MVP. When Cam Newton was in the league, he was on commercial. Like he was the dude before Pat Mahomes. And Cam Newton was one of those guys in the league and was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. Like, Cam Newton has always been that guy. He's not just because he wears some weird hats now and his clothing style is a little eccentric and stuff. But look, that's just his clothing style right now. That he likes the hats and the different style of clothes and stuff. That's fine. But I think a lot of it it was the gatekeeping aspect. As much as they say, as much as they'll talk about this, a lot of FS1 and ESPN do not like the fact that these athletes have their own shows.
Yeah.
They don't like it because journalists for the last 40, 50 years have been the ones telling the stories about these athletes. They do the documentaries, they do the newspaper articles, they do the books, on these athletes when they retire and stuff, talk about their life and talk about their, history and stuff like that. They've always been the gatekeepers, but now the athletes with the Pivot and Cam Newton show, Michael Parsons show on Bleacher Report and a couple others are telling their stories while it's happening live. They're doing it in basketball. I don't think I've really seen anything baseball related, but they've been doing it in basketball and football for sure, where guys who are actively playing, telling how they're feeling, what's going on. And a lot of these FS1 and them don't like it because you used to have to call them, hey, I want you to come on our show and talk about this, talk about that. They're like, I don't have to do it anymore. And athletes are now going to other athletes that are going to the Pivot. They're going to Shannon Sharp and Chad Ochocinco's show, like to talk about sports and how, because they know they're not, when they're talking about the game, right? And Skip Bayless is famous for this, and Stephen A is too. When they're talking to actual athletes on the panel, and they're sitting saying, so I think you're wrong, I think you're wrong. And you see the athlete's face like, wait, I don't care that you watched or wrote about the sport for 30 years. I don't care. You didn't play. You weren't on the court. How are you going to tell me I'm wrong? I think that's where a lot of this comes from now with social media and different technology the way it is. These athletes like, well, I don't have to go on ESPN and FS1 anymore. I can just create my own channel on YouTube, get my own subscribers. People can watch, and we can have other athletes come on and we can talk sports. So when Kimberly said that, and I saw Dominique Foxworth on the other side going like, you could clearly tell he was just like, if I wasn't on the network right now, I would say something, but I can't. I can't say it. And I was just like, I think I remembered when Tom Brady said a comment a couple weeks before that about the league being mediocre. No one said anything about Tom Brady saying it. No one said a word. The only person that said something was Alex Smith, who came on for that one day. I haven't seen him since. Maybe he pissed off Tom Brady. He said, I don't want him on ESPN no more. Get him out of here. Tom Brady made that comment about him NFL being mediocre. I didn't see one segment on Tom Brady anywhere about the NFL being mediocre. But when Cam said that, it was on FS1, it was on ESPN. Oh, Cam Newton, weird clothes. How is he talking like this? And Kimberly made that comment, forget the clothes. And I was just like, so because he's wearing eccentric clothes, now he doesn't know what he's talking about? Like this man wasn't a premier elite athlete at quarterback? Yeah. So I was just like, I just, and I will crazy. Say, I don't think I'm wrong, but I haven't seen Kimberly on First Take since that comment was made. Like she's been on Get Up, but she hasn't been on First Take. But I think because Ryan Clark sometimes is on the show with her, so I think there may be some stuff going on, and
Oh yeah, by far.
Yeah, it's probably. I mean, unfortunately, this is just kind of what happens when you see people in general just kind of branching out and becoming more independent and taking matters into their own hands. I mean, we see it with all different types of spaces. I mean, it happens in music, it happens in sports. The commentating thing is just a ridiculous take because it's like, obviously I'm more qualified than you. If we had resumes to line up against each other, you went to a whole bunch of school to read about what I've been doing actually on the field, on the court, or whatever the case may be. Like, it's a ridiculous argument to even have. And if I'm not saying that she should be gone or anything. I mean, she just needs to be educated on what the hell she just said, because obviously she's not smart enough to realize that what she said sounded dumb as hell. Because the thing with Cam Newton is it's an easy target for those type of people because he doesn't fit any type of societal norms that you want him to fit. He's a big black quarterback who did things his own way. He didn't necessarily follow the rules that were set forth in front of him. He didn't play the game like people expected him to play the game. But at the end of the day, like, look, those times is over. Like, we've already ushered in a new era of quarterbacks. I mean, we have, Lamar Jackson, who's kind of, he's obviously evolutionized the position as well, even further, and moved it forward. And it's just what it is. And for you to have a mindset and you just say things like that, this is obviously is going to rub, most people who understand what's going on the wrong way. And it just wasn't a good look. But we see it all the time. I mean, not with her, but like just the general gatekeepers, like you said, Miles, they don't like that these athletes are going out and getting their own shows and this, that, and the third, because now we don't need, this FS1 deal. We don't need this ESPN deal. Like we can kind of do it on our own and be just as successful and be just as and be more happy about it. And on top of that, now we're threatening the major networks because people are watching your show less and less. It's not like ESPN has had these greatest ratings for the last several years. The ESPN has not been doing great. They've been doing great on like one show. And outside of that,
that's First Take, yeah.
Yeah, First Take. And we're talking about First Take where we have people on that show who have their own platforms as well. So it's not like, this is just for ESPN. Every time Stephen A shows up on ESPN, every time Shannon Sharp shows up on ESPN, they're generating more bread for their own production individually as well. So
they have their banners right under when they're talking.
Right.
Stephen A show on YouTube.
Right. Exactly. So it's not what it used to be, even on that show. So it's like for her to say that on a show, it's kind of like she's just kind of like obviously just not, she's not fully aware of what's been happening. And she probably is, and just ignorant to the fact that what she said just came off the way it came off. And hopefully she learned her lesson. But it is unfair when things like that are targeted towards people for having an opinion, because like you said, Miles, when Tom Brady has an opinion on something, people are going to respect that opinion because he's a white quarterback and he won 6 Super Bowls or however many Super Bowls he won. But just because Cam Newton is a black quarterback, he dresses the way he dresses, he acts the way he acts, he doesn't follow your societal norms, and this, that, and the third, his opinion is not as valid. No, he did it at a high level too. He's an MVP of this league as well.
MVP.
Put some respect on that, just the same way you put some respect on that, on your opinions, because you weren't on the field, you weren't there, you weren't in the gym, you weren't in the practice, you weren't doing any of that. You're just here because you read about it and you wrote about it and you watched it on TV, and that's it. So like it's a very easy clapback in this whole situation. It's just that, it hasn't gotten to the point yet, but it feels like it's getting to the point where it's like, look, like you really now your word isn't even as valuable as ours, because y'all went so hard to make our word not valuable, that now it's making y'all look crazy. So I hope it keeps happening, because it's not going to be a game that they're going to win. I mean, we obviously we know what the ratings are teetering towards. We like watching takes from people on their personal podcasts, their personal shows. There's Shannon Sharp. We have opinions about Shannon Sharp, but it still is an opinion at the end of the day. So we don't hate Shannon Sharp. We just think he says ridiculous things. But at the end of the day, he has a great show with Ocho Cinco. That's
a good show.
He's entertaining. I think it's more entertaining than his individual show that he had by himself.
Yeah.
Holding out for Ocho is pretty enjoyable. What's his name? Jeff Teague. He got a show that
his show was funny.
I haven't watched. I need to watch more, but I've just seen clips. But even just the clips, like, are getting more ratings than these shows. So like that's just what it is. Like I said, I hope more analysts show their true colors and say stuff like that too, because a lot of times those are the people who have the worst takes anyway.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is desperation. These are desperate shots at these athletes, because they are what we want to see. We've seen media transform. We want to see influencers. We want to see rappers talk about hip hop culture, pop culture, and things like that. We want to see people that played the game, know the game, have real insights and not speculation. We don't want to see Skip Bayless as much and his 1.2 points per game in high school. We want to see a guy like Jeff Teague who has true stories from his playing time, has true insight, understand what goes into being an NBA player. We want to see him talk about the league. You know what I mean? We want to see Cam really give his opinion, because this is a guy that played. He's been a top tier MVP. He's been a guy that's a journeyman towards the end of his career. He's seen the top and the bottom. So this is what we want to see. And this is what the fans want to see. These are what the viewers want to see. And that's evident in the rise of these shows. They don't need the ESPN money. They are making money straight from their platforms, their Patreons, the YouTubes. This is what the general public wants. And you're seeing desperate attempts to shame them by some of these people who are trying to hold on to their jobs at ESPN, because we know, when that new year hits, that's usually when ESPN's about to do those cuts. So, I mean, there's a jealousy, and it's unfortunate that it's that way, but it's the nature of the game. We want to nowadays, music wise, everybody wants to see the TikTok stars and the young people and the young rappers. But now, in sports or media, we want to see the guys that have true insight. The game is changing, it's evolving. You know, there shouldn't be this much hate for Cam. Like Tom Brady said, worse, and he got nothing. He got shot
Right.
bail.
Yeah, and I think like you guys are saying is, I mean, it's I think gone are the days of where people accept who you throw out there in front of them on TV to talk about who has an opinion, like Mad Dog Russo and Stephen A. Smith and all this like stuff. Yeah, you guys have been journalists for 30 years and you've covered the game. You have all these so-called contacts and people and stuff like that. But we just didn't they just former I think she was on either CBS or Fox or either one of them, and she made a comment like on a show talking about she made up a story about a coach or something at the end of a game that she just made up. She didn't think it was a big deal, but in journalism, that's a huge no. You don't make up stories, about especially the topic you're covering. You don't make up content like that. But she said it, and it's like, I mean, we've heard athletes say this all the time, where they refuse to do interviews with certain reporters and stuff because they take what they say out of context. They'll take one little sentence they said without covering the whole thing. Why Marshawn Lynch towards the end of his career was like not talking to reporters at all. Right when he was the Super Bowl, he's like, I'm just here so I don't get fined. Like he's like, I'm not talking to y'all because when I start talking or say something, you're gonna take something out of context and you're gonna frame me a certain way. That's not correct. And I think that again with these shows, it also what I like about these shows too is that it allows these guys to be a little more open and real about what's going on. I feel like when they're talking to reporters, they gotta be real guarded and they real like, all right, like I can't really say this, I can't say that. But you look at the guys like that are I think like Corey said about Gilbert Arenas show, he's had Rashad McCants on there. I think he's had Steven Jackson on there a couple of times. Like these guys talk about their life in the league. And how things are going and stuff. And like I said, the story like Gilbert Arenas talked about him breaking guns in the locker room. Everybody's always wanted to know those stories and stuff. And I think that's the other thing too, is like no longer do we have to speculate about what happened in the locker room and stuff. Like when the Giannis thing happened this past week, he dropped 62 points and then he ran into the opposing team's locker room to get his ball back because they took the ball into the locker room. And I think they were talking about it the next day on the podcast. So I was like, we get to hear that now from the players, and we can believe them because they're like, why would they lie? Why would they lie about that? Like They're sitting there joking, laughing, fun, or whatever like that. So again, I think it's that old guard, like I said, journalism, and I think journalism and the athlete itself have always had a contentious relationship since they've been around. It's like journalists have a narrative about framing players they like, a certain way, and players they don't like for whatever reason. They may not be a bad person or even a bad athlete, but because they don't like them or because they didn't give them the scoop that they wanted, now I'm going to start putting bad stuff about you. I'm going to start taking stuff you said out of context. And I think players are like, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. We're not doing it anymore. So we're going to tell the stories and you're going to listen to us. And I think the fans have showed it. The fans have showed. Like we saw ESPN already made some big cuts back in, was that July, September?
Yeah.
They made some huge cuts. They got rid of more than half their staff, and on like Jalen Rose is gone. A whole bunch of people are gone. Yeah, I think it's it's making that shot looking directly in the camera by Kimberly, and I like Kimberly too. And it's just like making that shot at Cam was like that was unnecessary.
Yeah,
because you don't do that to Dan. You don't do Dan Orlovsky.
Nope.
I like Dan. I love Dan. I love Dan. I think he really knows football. But let's be real. The one thing he's known for is stepping on the back line of the end zone, causing his own sake. That's what he's known for. That's what he's known for. Cam Newton has been at the best level at every tier of football: Pee Wee, high school, college, NFL. He has been the top guy at every level. So let's put some respect on him. Okay, put some respect on him. So yeah, look, the MVP race. I put on my Facebook page. I was like, I know they're not really talking about it right now, but it feels like the MVP race comes down to Monday night, Christmas Day. You got at least 3 of the top MVP getters, I think vote getters in the game. You're gonna have Steve Mack, Brock Purdy, and Lamar Jackson in this game. And I'll ask you guys this: do you think Lamar is thinking about that part of this game, or Lamar more thinking, I already did the MVP thing. If they give it to me, great, but I'm more worried about getting that ring at the end. Do you think Lamar is even like considering worried about this?
No, I don't think he's worried about it. I think it might have been a different story if this happened to be the contract year opposed to last year. It might have meant something for him just in a matter of locking up his future. But I mean, he's already paid. MVP this year will be great, but I think us as fans, we want it for him more than he probably wants it for himself. I'm sure he wants it, but that's just not where his focus is. His focus is winning a Super Bowl and winning a Super Bowl only. So he's going to do that, by any means necessary, whether that means putting up eye-popping numbers to get us the win or whether that means getting into the guys who need the ball to get us the win. So I don't think that, I definitely don't think that he's thinking about that, focused on it, or whatever the case may be. But of course, like you said, taking care of the Niners, I think would solidify it for him. I think that'll definitely up his chances significantly. So he has that on his mind. And I think, the two things will kind of play into each other. So you take care of business in San Francisco, have a dominating performance and win that game. He's probably going to win it anyway, based on only having a couple of games left in the season. So I think that's more so on his mind, is dominating San Francisco than it is winning the MVP. But doing one might get you both.
Yeah, I think this is so far from Lamar's mind. I think his sole focus is the Super Bowl. I feel like he's at that place where he just obsesses about it. And I think, how he's not chasing stats and how he's like pulling up on runs and just the way he plays right now lets me know he's not worried about his stats. He's worried about what's going to win the game. And I think that's all he's focused on. I think this is just like something he'll just be grateful for if he wins it. But at the end of the day, he wants to go get the W no matter what, whether he puts up big stats, whether he throws for 110 yards and a touchdown, he's fine with that. He doesn't want the MVP. He just wants to win. So I think it's just that simple. This is just a different type of guy.
Yeah, and I think they said like the leadership that he's shown this year is like he's focused more on the team, like a team as a whole. Like we need to get to the Super Bowl. Now I will say, if Lamar wins another MVP, whatever comparisons they give him against current quarterbacks outside of Pat Mahomes needs to stop. Like if he wins 2 MVPs, like the only person that you can talk about is him and Mahomes. That's it. Don't talk about Josh Allen and Herbert and or even Hurts for that matter. If Lamar wins an MVP race, like the conversation is over. It's him and Mahomes. Period.
Yeah. All Lamar does is win, man. All he does is win, and he does it at a high clip, and he's been doing it with way less than any of these other guys have ever had throughout their careers. And to me, even going through this Brock Purdy, the comparison going into Monday night, Brock Purdy versus Lamar. Brock Purdy is actually favored to win the MVP as it stands right now for whatever reason. But Brock Purdy is playing with a whole nother potential MVP on his team. So like, can you really be the MVP when you're playing with another MVP candidate? Basically, like, what are you saying? If you go down tomorrow, Christian McCaffrey might still carry. He might still do his thing. Yeah, but y'all still might not. You still might not win. But if Christian McCaffrey goes down, you're probably not going to win. So like, I don't even understand how he's the favorite at that point. I would probably respect it more if they said Christian McCaffrey was the favorite, because I feel like they can probably still get the job done if Purdy goes down, because they also have Deebo Samuel, who, if Christian McCaffrey wasn't there, Deebo Samuel will probably be in the conversation as the MVP favorite as well. So like, miss me with it. The game's going to be important regardless, because Lamar is not up against and I'm not Lamar, but like as far as MVP odds, he's going to be up against the Lamar haters. He's going to be up against that San Francisco defense, and he's going to be up against, just themselves shooting themselves in the foot with the offensive line. But outside of that, I don't think it's close between him and Purdy, just based on what he's had to do with that team, versus what San Francisco's had to do, what Purdy's had to do. Purdy's been pretty much. I don't want to disrespect him and say a game manager because he's been playing some great ball, but I do think Shanahan has a part to do with that, and I do think Christian McCaffrey and Debo being on that team has a lot to do with that as well.
Yeah, I mean he's not a game manager, but he's a system quarterback.
Absolutely.
He thrives in the ability to hit guys in open space, and to make those throws. But what we saw during those low periods for San Francisco this year is like when his guys aren't available, he's out there. He's looking more like Joe Flacco last week.
Like Gardner
So
Minshew.
Gardner Minshew, there you go. Gardner Minshew getting guys smacked. So I think with Brock Purdy, by all means, he should be in the MVP race. Not even going to lie, just because the stats are insane. I mean, he has the fifth highest QB rating in NFL history. But when you look at from the eye test and you're not a box score bandit like Shannon Sharp, what guy is carrying his team? What guy is truly valuable to his team? Where would the Ravens be 11-3 right now, or would they be 3-11 without Lamar Jackson? Would they? And you see how he carries his team to victory. He wills them to wins. He makes plays that Brock Purdy can't. But I can't say it in reverse. I don't think Brock Purdy makes plays that Lamar can't, but Lamar makes plays and has made plays that Brock Purdy can't. I don't think Brock Purdy can carry any team like Lamar has. So I think that's what gives him the edge in my mind. I could care less about Christian McCaffrey because they don't give MVPs to running backs anymore. So this is really Lamar versus Purdy. But I think when you look at the totality, you look holistically at the season and look at it with your eyes and not your stat sheet, you see that Lamar has not only beat his opponents, he's beat his own coaches. He's dealt with the injuries to his team. He doesn't have his top running back. He's about to be without his new lively running backs. Odell hasn't been the $20 million guy. Granted, he's coming on strong. He hasn't been the $20 million guy they signed. Zay hasn't stepped into that number one receiver role. He doesn't have a Pro Bowl receiver on his team. Gardner Minshew has two. He has some average running backs on this team. Brock Purdy has Brock Purdy. Well, I say Gardner Minshew. Brock Purdy has Christian McCaffrey. So and you got Kyle Shanahan as your play caller. I mean, Brock Purdy has privilege all over his season when Lamar is just working with less and he's making it happen. So, I mean, you have to put it in Lamar's court right now, but I think it's going to come down to this game.
And also, wasn't this Jimmy Garoppolo's team? Wasn't Jimmy Garoppolo doing the same thing kind of with the guys he had for a period of time before he went down? And look where he's at, and look where he's at now. Like, come on, man.
Made it to the Super Bowl. Yeah, so I mean, that's just segue right into the Ravens 49ers. So look, we already know like with this game, right? I mean, it's 49ers are going to be the best team they played to this point. I mean, I looked at the stats, and I mean the ranking, the stuff. The 49ers are on both sides of the ball, top 5 almost in every category. The only weakness that the 49ers have is pass completion percentage. So they will allow you to, you can throw the ball. Like they're not going to allow the big play like over the top. They're not going to allow that. They'll give you the stuff underneath. They'll give you that, right? Their run defense is pretty good. Of course, they added Chase Young after the trade deadline. Around the trade deadline, you got Christian McCaffrey's health. Debo has Samuel's healthy. I think the key for this game is I don't even think, like honestly, not even going to really focus on Christian McCaffrey. I think for them, take Debo out of the game. If you can find a way to neutralize Debo, kind of like the Ravens did last week against Etienne, neutralize Debo because he provides that extra element. in the offense. He can line up in the backfield. He can line up out wide and act a wide receiver and all. He can do all that stuff. If they can kind of contain him, right? And I think the other aspect of this is Matabike. You guys said it before. We were talking about the Jags, right? They got to get pressure early. They can't wait until the second half. Because if they're going to get pressure on Brock Purdy and he's allowed to sit back there and the way they've been running their offense, right? Brock Purdy's been getting the ball out in 3 seconds. Like 1, 2, 3, bam. 1, 2, 3, bam. Like it's going to be on Roquan and P. Queen, especially. They got to do a really good job of guarding that middle. Kyle Hamilton's got to stop all that. Him and Brandon Stevens and Marlon, for that matter, got to stop all their screen stuff. They have to show the 49ers very early on, this is not going to work today. They got to stop them at every possible moment they can. Now, look, there's going to be moments in the game, I think, that McCaffrey's going to have a big play. Debo's going to have a big play. But it's going to come down to, I think, if the Ravens can hold the 49ers to just kicking field goals instead of touchdowns, that's for on defense, right? Now, for Brandon Stevens, who do you guard? I guess because Debo, they move him around so much, I would have to say he's going to probably be on Ayuk. He's going to probably be on Ayuk. Debo, I guess it's Marlon. Maybe you put Darby out of the doghouse.
Kyle following him around. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe Kyle. Yeah, I'm not. Like I said, this is gonna be Mike for both sides, right? I think for Mike McDonald and for Monken, it's gonna be their most. It's gonna be their toughest game to scheme. Because, like you said, with Fred Warner, especially on the defense, for Monken, what do you do with him? For Fred Warner, Jennings, the cornerback, they just got a pick 6 last week and ran it back. It's so they have playmakers on every level, of this team. And I think they've already given everybody's like, the Ravens are going to lose. 49ers going to win this game. They're at home. I think even people in the local media have kind of already said, yeah, the Ravens lose this game. It doesn't really matter as long as they beat the Dolphins next week, But I don't think it's not a winnable game. The Ravens do a really good job of playing up to competition. Like we said, they've when the Lions came in here, they were number 1 in their division when we played them. When the Seahawks came in here, they were number 1 at the time in their division when we played them. And the Ravens showed out. They played phenomenal football. Lamar's even said, we got to get back to more, maybe some play action, some rollouts, things like that, putting this line on just moving things around so the line doesn't have to just straight up block Chase Young and Nick Bosa, this week. So, it's going to be a challenge. Without Keith Mitchell there, I was definitely hoping Keith Mitchell would be available for this game. This is the game I really wanted to see him featured in, but he's not going to. But you don't really have. You got Justice Hill's going to probably be utilized again. I think, like you said, Travis been saying for the last few weeks, get that wheel route in motion. Get that wheel route going. I think in a game like this, they're going to have to show so many different looks. I think for that defense that they haven't seen before. Because I think if they're too predictable in this game, it could end up messing with them. They can't start slow, like they have been the last few weeks. They got to get in the end zone. I think that's going to set the tone for how this game goes. Is if the Ravens win the toss or whatever, and they get the ball first and score a touchdown on the first drive, I think that sets the wheels in motion for the Ravens. Like, oh, we can win this game. But if the 49ers get the ball and they drive down the defense with like not being stopped at all, and they just get down there, it's like, oh crap, crap, here we go. And like I said, they can't wait. Matabike can't wait to get pressure on the interior until the third quarter, because by then they could be down by 2 touchdowns. They got to get early. So I don't know if that requires Queen and Roquan they got to do some stunt plays, something, move the guys around, like of Clowney and them. Like I don't know how they're going to line up the defensive ends. Whoever is going to be on Trent Williams is going to be null and void, plain and simple. Nobody's been able to get past that man this year. Whoever's on Trent Williams is going to be null and void. So they're going to do some stuff on the interior part with the center and the guards. They're going to do something to move things around and give some guys some open lanes for sacks or something to knock the ball down. Another, I think, part of this game is from what they got it, I think, in the Jags game, but they're going to need it more in this game. And I think it's going to need turnovers in the second half for the Ravens. Or should I say takeaways? Takeaways for the Ravens defense in the second half. Because in these kind of games, it's going to feel like a playoff game. It's going to feel like if they get a turnover early, the 49ers have enough time to come back into the game and kind of wipe that out. But if it happens in the third and fourth quarter, it changes the kind of dynamic of the game and the momentum of the game, and the thing is close. That changes everything. There's not a lot of time. Now you're working against the clock. Now you're working against your own momentum. Guys are tired now. So, yes, I would love the Ravens to get a takeaway in the first half, but I would love to see them make, especially that defense, make key plays in the second half to change this game, much like they did in the Chargers game. They had to do that in the Chargers game. And they got that, I think, was it Jadeveon Clowney got that, was it a sack, the strip fumble? Strip fumble in the fourth quarter when the Chargers were driving towards the end zone. They got a strip fumble, and the Ravens got it back. Like, that's what the Ravens are going to need in this game. They're going to have to play – they're going to have to take segments from, like, the last 15 weeks, 14 weeks of these different games and put it all together this week. Because this is really going to be for the Ravens going forward. Forget the Dolphins and the Steelers game coming up. If the Ravens really believe that they're going to be able to win the Super Bowl, they got to play well this game. They got to see it. They got to be able to see with their own eyes, because if they go in and they get blown out like the Eagles did and the Cowboys did against them, then I feel like the Ravens fans and even the team to a sense will be like, maybe we can get to the Super Bowl, but I don't know. Like, if the 49ers are there, we're going to have the same issues and the kind of thing. So, again, I think is Lamar. Can Lamar outduel Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy? Is the key to this game. And I don't even think Lamar, like you guys said, Lamar has to throw for 350. I think it's going to be a combination of what it was last week. Lamar's going to have to make some plays with his legs, and when they get into the red zone, score touchdowns. That's what I think the key is. Again, I think, Travis, you mentioned this a few weeks ago too. Time of possession in this game. Keep the ball out of the San Francisco 49ers' hands, the offense. Keep it out of their hands. Run the foot. There are going to be times in this game throughout the 4 quarters where there are going to be moments where it's like, all right, let's run the ball. Let's take about 7-8 minutes off this clock. Let's not give especially if the Ravens towards the end of the half get the ball, score a touchdown, and it's like they got the ball right, but they know it's like, all right, there's like 6 minutes left on this clock. Let's wind this thing down a bit, so when the 49ers do get the ball back, they only got like a minute, maybe 40 seconds to do something. They don't have a lot of time to do much of anything. So, yeah, again, Harbaugh's going to have to coach his best game. Like, everybody's going to have to be on their best in this game. Everybody's going to be on their best in this game. But I will say, I think the one thing working in the Ravens' favor is no one's really giving them a chance to win this game. Because I already know on Monday Night Football, the analysts come up, everybody's going to pick the 49ers. They're going to be at home. They're on a roll right now. Everybody's going to pick the 49ers. No one's going to pick the Ravens. No one. So I think the only thing is that everybody's it's kind of already probably putting them out of it. So the Ravens are working with that a little bit. Maybe they can shock the world.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those. It's a unique game for us, man. We're going to have our biggest test on offense, and we're going to have our biggest test on defense, and we're going to have a biggest test on that sideline coaching a football game as well. Like you said, not just the offense and defense, but our coaches are going to have to coach up the best game. I'm hoping and I'm praying that a lot of the things we've been kind of frustrated about these past few weeks is just due to them kind of not opening up the playbook. Maybe they're trying to save some of it for, some of these types of games. I will say, whatever they're saving, I don't think we can save no more. Unfortunately, we got the 49ers this week, and saving that stuff to the playoffs is probably not going to cut it. So we are going to have to play our best game. I don't really have many concerns about Lamar Jackson because I just feel like he's going to show up for this game. He's going to be ready. He's probably going to, have to overcome some things just because, the rest of our team is not going to have a perfect game, but they still just have to play their best game. My number one concern is just going to be that offensive line. They're going to have to figure out a way to scheme up some type of offense that's going to keep Chase Young, keep Bosa off of Lamar. Like, it's just not going to work if they're just continuously getting pressure. Like, Lamar can do almost anything, but we don't want to start the game off and he's under duress. It's just not going to be a good sign for the rest of the game going forward. That's really my only concern. As far as getting looks downfield is once again is gonna depend on our offensive line. Like if they're not protecting Lamar, then this game could go left real quick, and it can go left pretty much early on. I do think they'll figure out a way. I don't think Stanley's going to be involved in that equation whatsoever. I think they are going to end up just having Makari out there on the left, and we're just going to have to see what we do. I don't know if that's going to mean incorporating extra tight end in there just for extra blocking. But they got two dogs over there. It's not just one pass rusher. I mean, last week we had to deal with Josh Allen, and that's the guy we kind of had to keep an eye on, and he still kind of inflicted some type of pass rush, even with that being said. So it just has to we have to figure it out one way or the other. But that would be kind of my biggest concern. I think the run game is going to be key in this game. I don't think it's going to be a super highlight passing real type of game on either side. I think the game is pretty much going to go through the run game. As good as the run game goes is where it's going to take us. Like you said, with time of possession, that's going to be important, because the less we get to see Christian McCaffrey line up in that backfield, the better. And that brings me to my second concern. But another key to the game is, we cannot have those leaks in the run game. We did shore it up last week. We look a lot better in the run game, so we got to kind of keep that going. The pass rush, getting Purdy kind of out of the pocket is kind of, not out of the pocket just so he can, wide open, but we need to kind of like just get him under duress. I think he would fold just like Trevor Lawrence folded last week. It's just a matter of keeping that pressure on him early and often, because like you said, like we were saying earlier, waiting to the second half to get pressure on this team, the game, is going to be already over. So I think that's really important. I'm not concerned about Matty BK getting pressure. He's going to get his pressure. He's just going to need help. Like a part of Matty BK's success early on, was that we were getting pressure on the outsides as well. And the fact that we're no longer getting pressure on the outsides as well is kind of like, it's kind of making the defensive line a little bit stagnant. So it's definitely going to be important to keep pressure on them. We're going to pick somebody, whether it's Debo or whether it's Christian McCaffrey. We're going to have to pick somebody to isolate. I don't know who it's going to be, but we cannot allow them to go crazy on the ground, because, some of these maybe passing, some things we can live with, but it's not going to sit well if they're just gashing us on the ground and just running the clock out, and now they're beating us at our own game. So I think it's going to be highly critical to figure out what we're going to do with Christian McCaffrey as far as in the run game. Because if they're running the ball effectively, let's just keep it real. With Debo just playing receiver and they're running the ball respectively, we're going to respect that a lot more than we probably respected it with other teams. And they got the threat of Debo just being anywhere on the field at any given time. Yeah, everybody's going to have to play their best game, including Kyle Hamilton, who's been playing great. He's going to have to play better. And that's saying a lot, because it ain't really that much he can improve on, but he's going to have to play his best game still. So that's, Brandon Stevens, he's going to have to continue to show up like he's been showing up. Marlon Humphrey took another step forward last week. So, he had a bounce back game like we talked about. Everybody's just going to have to play their best game defensively. I'm more so worried, like I said, about stopping this run game. If we can make them one-dimensional, I think that's going to be key. Even though they're very effective and efficient passing the ball as well, I think if we can force them to only be able to do that, I think that will go better in our favor than them just running all over us and then being able to, kill us on play action and things like that. So I think that's really the key. Lamar, I just hope that he doesn't have to overcome too much. I want him to have a dominant game without having to, make up for what we're not doing well and shooting bail for him having to, make up plays for what the offensive line is not doing. So, like I said, everybody just have to kind of be on their P's and Q's. And even Lamar himself, this might be a game where we can't afford the dumb interception. Like, he might get one of those every other game or so. We can't afford that in this game. Like, this is a team that's going to make you pay for it. They're going to capitalize off of that. So it's kind of tough to say, the keys of the game. I do think this is a winnable game. I do think, we can get this done. But, the keys of the game, when you get the top three, offensive, defensive, the keys of the game, the list is long. The list is long for us to get this W in this one. But, we're also on a win streak. So it's not like, that's a lot to say for that. We're also 6-1 on the road. So the 49ers are coming with a lot of, accolades, and they got the star players and things like that, but we got some dogs on our team too, and we've been winning, we've been successful on the road as well. So, that stuff doesn't really mean that much to me, but the best game must be played. It's not a must-win game, but it's definitely a statement game. And I still want Lamar to win the MVP because I still want him to get that. So it means a lot to us Ravens fans, obviously, but just in terms of Lamar, you win this Niners game, it's almost like whatever happens after that is like they really have nothing to say. So
Yeah. Let me paint this picture, man. This is the first time in NFL history the best teams have played this late in the season. Like, it's crazy. So I want to talk about like how this is a strength versus strength game. Like, they're strong offensively, we're strong defensively. We're strong against the pass, they're one of the top passing teams. We're one of the top against the run, they're good against the run. But man, there's hope because this team has a weakness that we can exploit. Dre Greenlaw, linebacker, one of the worst coverage linebackers in the NFL. Strong against the run, terrible against coverage. The 49ers may be missing, Hargrave and Eric Armstead on Monday night. Their backups combined missed 5 tackles last week and had terrible PFF grades. I mean, like a 20, 23, and 25. Chase Young hasn't been playing as well the past couple weeks as he did when he first came to the Niners. The issues that San Francisco had during the middle of the season defensively were with missed tackles, right? Last week against the Cardinals, they missed 16 tackles against the Cardinals. So we have guys that can make you miss. We have guys that can run through you. We have a quarterback that makes everyone miss. So there's opportunity with Yak running the ball to really attack this team where they really struggle, and that's actually making solid tackles. They're speedy, they're physical, they can cover, but they're very sus when it comes to making tackles. So I think the strategy for us offensively, run the ball, get the ball in the guys' hands in space, make these guys miss tackles. Because if the Arizona Cardinals have you missing 16 tackles in a game, imagine what these Ravens are going to do. So that has to be the strategy offensively. I feel more comfortable with our offensive line, knowing that Hargrave and Armstead are out, but you still got Young and Bosa on the edge. What I would like to see that I saw this past week, I love seeing what's my guy's name? Pat Ricard in the slot, crackback and out of the slot.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I think that toss play that we ran early in the year, this would be a great game to use that with Justice Hill, with my man Pat Ricard crack blocking off that from the slot. I think we have opportunities to really neutralize their pass rushers. It just comes down to Monken. I hope that we attack these weaknesses they have because they're clear as day. And, the missed tackle issue is pretty big. That's a pretty big thing, missing 16 tackles in a game. I don't think as much as we complain about the Ravens defense when they have missed tackles, it's never been that bad. So I think that's how we attack them. Defensively, we have to tackle. We have to tackle because their offense.
No yak allowed. No yak.
Yeah, their offense is predicated on getting these guys into space and making you miss or running through you. That's a strength of Deebo Samuels, and Brandon Ayuk can make a guy miss. And then Christian McCaffrey, he can break tackles. He has speed. So we have to be able to tackle. But we have to stop the run. I think it starts with stopping the run. I think, Trey, you said it. Like, if you make them a one-dimensional team, I don't think Brock Purdy is going to put up the same numbers if Christian McCaffrey isn't successful and we just sit back there and tee off on him and just cover. So I think if we neutralize the run, if our front four gets pressure on Purdy, we can have a great game defensively. I'm not saying a great game like we're going to shut him out, but holding them to 17 or 20 points, I think That's a win. And being able to put up, points offensively, I think that's to be the strategy. So I think we have to come out defensively. We have to be physical, smack them in the mouth, put pressure on with our front four, neutralize Christian McCaffrey, because this is a team that is very dangerous. But our defense, they've had this look in their eye, even when they haven't played good. They've had this look in their eye. They've had this swagger that they believe in what they can do, and they think they can stand up with anybody. And I believe that too. Um, so that's what I think. That's the keys to the game. Offensively, we have to get guys in space. We have to get the yak. We have to get yards after contact. Um, that's gonna be what it comes down to. We can't make mistakes because this team doesn't turn the ball over. They turned the ball over 12 times this year, which is the second best in the league. So we have to not lose that turnover battle. So those are the keys to the game. I'm hoping that we come out with a victory. Lamar plays great, but that's how we got to attack this team.
Yeah, much like what the Cowboys did against the Eagles a couple weeks ago. A lot of the takeaways were like physical play, like they punched the ball out, uh, hit guys hard. Like this is going to be a physical game, right? The Ravens defense, I think, what we've seen the last few weeks has been extremely physical. The offense is going to match that energy on the other side as well. The offense is going to be physical. The line's going to have to, again, it's that bully ball mentality, right? They're going to have to show something to that 49ers defensive front that they have. Like we want this game. Like we want this game. I feel like Roquan look, I think he's going to have those guys ready. Like I have no question about the defense. Like I think we saw Kyle Hamilton. I don't know how this guy make tackles sometimes because he'll just put his hand on some guy's foot and the guy just goes down. Like Kyle Hamilton just finds a way. Like he'll be the guy's in the screen and he's like already being blocked and he'll put a hand on him and the guy just he's down. Like I'm just like I don't know how Kyle Hamilton makes these plays sometimes, but I think that's going to be he needs to be a key player in this game. If Kyle Hamilton keep the wheel routes and all that stuff, any screenplays and stuff, and keep that stuff at bay, and not allow them to extend the plays doing that kind of stuff, like you said, I think that's going to be paramount to this for this Ravens defense, making Brock Purdy. Oh, now I got to throw it downfield. Now I got to throw it to if Brandon Stevens and Ayuko. Who else do you trust down there? Who else is it out there outside of Debo and Brandon Ayuko? Who else are you going to throw the football to? They've used Kittle every now and then, but not as much as they used in the past. So I'm like, this is going to be a physical game. Who can out physical the other? Turnover. It's going to be like for the Ravens. I think the mindset is you got to play this game like it's the Steelers game, right? Imagine it's the Steelers. You're battling for the AFC North. You know how those games go. Don't turn the football over. Get takeaways, and we'll see if Tyler Wallace can make a phenomenal play in special teams. Let's see if we can get that. We can get that this week. If Tyler Wallace can make a phenomenal play in special teams, not even necessarily return one for a touchdown. If he can get the Ravens in just good field position, if the Ravens defense can keep the Ravens on the 49ers side of the field most of the game, I like our chances. But the Ravens are going to have to go 90 yards, 80 yards against that 49ers defense. I don't know how they're going to make it down the field that often. So I think it's going to be it's definitely going to be a field. It's going to be a field position game for sure. And I'm just I'm hoping the Ravens. I think Lamar's going to be Lamar, and Roquan and that defense is going to be really good. The question is, can likely have another game like he had last week? If Zay is playing, can he ball out? And same thing with Odell. Can we get more out of Odell this week? That's going to be key, I think, for this game. So, all right. Before we get out of here, what's the scores? What you guys got? It's going to be a tough one to pick. It's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I think we plan on Christmas night. I'm going to say we score 25 to 24. I think it's a close game. I think we somehow pull it out at the end, get the dub, and we get to watch national media for the rest of the week while enjoying our Christmas. So
drink my eggnog.
I'll say 25-24. We get the dub.
You're on mute, Travis.
Yeah, you muted.
I don't know how it just keeps happening. I think this game goes down to the wire. I think we're going to see the Lamar moment for the MVP this game. Back and forth, physical game. Lamar throws a game-winning touchdown pass to Odell with 45 seconds left, 24-20.
24-20. Okay. Because the 49ers on the year average 30 points a game. So they holding under 30. Yeah, I mean, that's most teams, right? If you can hold them under 30, you can beat them. So that's going to be key for this game. So I'm going to say 28-26 49ers. I think the Ravens come close, but I think that what's badly is what's going to happen is that they're going to do the Ravens are going to score a touchdown, but there's going to be too much time left on the clock for the 49ers to go down the field. It's going to be bad coaching decision by Harbaugh, and not clock management is going to be poor. Like y'all should have left a little bit less time, and the 49ers are going to get down the field and score a touchdown. And it will be a close game. The Ravens held tight, but I feel like that's going to happen. So, yeah, I said 28-26 49ers. So, hopefully I'm wrong. I hope I can come on here and say I'm wrong. But, yeah, so this will be the last one until, after Christmas. So, everyone have a happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Don't drink too much eggnog. Hope you didn't go into debt spending Christmas gifts. Especially you two, you guys, it's newly married and one getting married. So, these Christmas gifts this year is going to be expectations are high.
Her birthday's the day after Christmas.
Oh
man, you just get no break.
Hey man, I feel for you, bro.
Yeah, I do. That's rush, bro.
Pray for me. That's all I ask.
Man, all right. Well, hopefully Santa Claus puts a little bit extra bills in your stocking. little extra bills in that paycheck this Christmas season. So everybody have a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and hopefully the Ravens pull this one out. And Lamar would go 15. If he wins this one, he'll be 15-4 in primetime games in his career.
Nice.
And he'd be 20-1 against the NFC.
Yeah, that's remarkable. That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Super crazy.
And I think Corey said that every time the Ravens have played the 49ers, the last few times we played them, they've been on a roll like this, and the Ravens have stopped them. So hopefully keep that trend up. Let's keep that trend up. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you guys next week. Peace.
Peace. Merry Christmas.
Peace.